Welcome back, true crime fans. The Silence in Housing Unit 4. Smash that subscribe button if you think you could survive a night in the nation's deadliest cell block, because this story will test your nerves. The wind howled across the open farmland outside Bon Terre, Missouri, carrying the smell of rain and rust. From the highway, the Northeast Correctional Center, NECC, looked like a fortress of poured concrete and razor wire, but inside it was a maze of corridors and blind spots, old systems patched over by new ones, and rules bent by those meant to enforce them. On a storm-struck evening in October, the silence inside Housing Unit 4 was broken by a sound no one could mistake, a muffled cry for help, followed by the metallic clatter of a restraint chair rolling across tile. The official log would later say, "Non-compliant inmate moved to observation," but those who were there knew it was something else. Ava Brooks, a young corrections investigator assigned to NECC on temporary detail, had been following whispers of a pattern for weeks. Mysterious incidents recorded as minor behavioral infractions, but ending with men hospitalized or transferred without explanation. The administration called it high visibility management. Inmates called it the tap out. That night, Ava was on the catwalk above the unit when she saw two officers wheel a man she recognized, Jamal Reed, a nonviolent offender serving 5 years, into a shuttered section of the medical wing. No medical staff accompanied them. No cameras covered that corridor. She jotted the time, 22:46. Ava wasn't alone in her suspicions. On the other side of the wire, Miguel Torres, a former NECC officer turned whistleblower, had been feeding her scraps of information through encrypted emails. His messages were terse. Check restraint logs, weeks 1722, names redacted in Incident 334. And finally, tonight, he's next. When Ava left her post at midnight, she didn't drive home. She crossed the lot to a maintenance shed where Miguel waited under a flickering security light. He looked older than his 34 years, eyes hollow from months of silence. "You saw them take Reed," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Ava said. "Same corridor as Rivera last spring." Miguel handed her a thin folder sealed with tape. Inside were photocopies of incident reports, with the same initials at the bottom. DK, a lieutenant known for his calm demeanor and spotless record. Each report described chemical deterrence and temporary restraint for infractions as small as failure to stand for count. "They're building a pattern," Miguel whispered. "Force them into a chair, pepper spray them, then write non-compliant. Paperwork makes it legal." "Why give this to me?" Ava asked. "Because I can't stop it from the outside," he said. "But you're still inside. You can get what I can't." Thunder rolled across the horizon like distant artillery. Ava closed the folder. "If I get caught, they'll bury you with the rest," Miguel said flatly. The next morning, NECC hummed with routine. Count, chow, work call. Reed didn't appear at breakfast. Official word, segregation. Unofficial word, whispered along the line, he's gone. Ava spent the day moving through offices, filing innocuous reports, waiting for a gap in the schedule. By late afternoon, she had what she needed. A maintenance badge borrowed from a friendly engineer and a slim camera disguised as a pager. At 1800, she slipped down the back stairwell toward the medical wing. The corridor smelled of disinfectant and old sweat. Fluorescent bulbs buzzed overhead, but one fixture was out, casting a long wedge of shadow across the floor. Ahead, the door marked Observation B was ajar. Inside, she found a small room lined with chain-link cages stacked with boxes and old monitors. A desk sat in the center under a single hanging bulb. On it, a binder lay open, pages filled with tight block print and timestamps. The entries were chillingly uniform. Subject became non-compliant, chemical deterrent deployed, subject placed in restraints, transfer complete. Ava snapped a photo of each page, her heart hammering. She flipped to the most recent entry, Jamal Reed. Date, last night. Location, temporary holding S2. Outcome, transfer complete, no medical required. Her breath caught. Transfer to where? No note, no signature, just a red stamp. Received. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Ava closed the binder, slipped the tiny camera back into her pocket, and moved toward the exit. But the footsteps didn't pass. They stopped at the door. A voice spoke, calm and low. "Looking for something, investigator?" She turned slowly. Lieutenant David Kent stood in the doorway, clipboard in hand. Behind his glasses, his eyes were unreadable. "You're off duty," he said. "These records aren't your area." "I was just—" she began. "Just what?" His tone was still mild, but his body blocked the only exit. "Following orders? Looking for a ghost?" Ava forced herself to breathe evenly. "I heard Reed was transferred." Kent's mouth curved in something that wasn't a smile. "Transfers happen every day. Not without paperwork." He took a step closer. "You're young, ambitious. You think you can change things, but this place changes you first." The overhead bulb flickered, casting his shadow across the cages like bars. Ava's fingers brushed the folder in her pocket. One word pulsed in her mind: run. Kent shifted the clipboard to his other hand. Beneath it she glimpsed a photograph, grainy, blue-tinted, time-stamped, Reed in a restraint chair, eyes closed. Date, today. "I think you've seen enough," Kent said softly. "Let's take a walk." Ava didn't move. Somewhere down the hall a door slammed, echoing like a gunshot. Kent's eyes flicked toward the sound, and in that split second, Ava darted past him into the corridor. She ran, heart pounding, folder pressed to her chest. Behind her, his footsteps followed at a measured pace. She turned the corner toward the stairwell and skidded to a halt. Two officers stood at the bottom, blocking the way, radios crackling. They looked up at her with blank faces. "Investigator Brooks," one said. "Lieutenant's orders. Come with us." She backed up, searching for another exit. The corridor stretched behind her like a trap. Somewhere above, thunder rolled again. In her pocket, the tiny camera burned against her skin like a secret she might not live to tell. When she turned back toward the stairwell, Kent was there, calm as ever, clipboard under his arm. "We can do this the easy way," he said, "or we can do it the hard way." Ava's pulse roared in her ears. She glanced at a maintenance door marked S2, authorized personnel only. It was unguarded, keycard lock blinking green from a recent entry. Reed's last location. Kent saw her look. His smile widened slightly. "Don't!" She bolted. The maintenance door swung shut behind her, just as the radios erupted with Kent's voice. The corridor beyond was narrow, pipes dripping overhead, concrete walls closing in. Somewhere in the darkness ahead came a sound that froze her blood, the rhythmic squeak of wheels on tile, like a cue, hair being rolled. She raised her phone's light. The beam caught a set of fresh footprints, wet and smeared, leading deeper into the tunnel. At the far end, a metal door stood ajar, a strip of light spilling out. Ava hesitated, heart hammering, then stepped forward. She pushed the door open and gasped. What she saw inside changed everything.